Hi guys, just going to take this review up. So this is the Unit 1 test review, the test for Unit 1, I guess, found at the end of Unit 1, obviously. So I got the answers here printed. Going through this real quick, I want to go from 3/10 to a decimal so you can divide this out or know that 3/10 is 0.3. That's 3/10, right? We used to call it that, or you'd call it that. That's the same as 0.30 or 31/100ths. And then what you're going to do here to go to percent is multiply by 100 or move the decimal once, twice. And if there's a gap here, you put a 0, so 30%. Working backwards, 16%. Move the decimal twice this way, once, twice, 0.16, 16 over 100. So you go straight into 16 over 100, and then you can put in lowest terms. I just look, they're both even, so I divide by 2, still both even. And now look for factors that go into both numbers, 4 and 25. I don't find any, so I'm done. Here, ratios, you're going to know that it's going to be something like this, right, with a colon between the two, and then you're going to write this in lowest terms. Now, this is wrong, just in case don't get excited here. That's wrong. What you want to make sure is that your units are the same. So 2,000 kilometers, or 2 kilometers, sorry, is 2,000 meters, and then you work your way to here. Next up, we're looking at the ratio, the exponent law rules. So if you have anything, if it's an x or a 3, so if I had x squared times x to the 5, or 3 squared times 3 to the 5, know that that's 3 times 3, and then that's times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And what you have is you have 7 3's being multiplied, so it's that. Now, how do you get that? You add these exponents together. So when you multiply, you add the exponents. So that's 3 to the 7. So that's the general rule. N and m add to n plus m. When you divide, it's the, I don't want to say opposite, but I guess it's the opposite. X to the 7 divided by x to the 6 is x to the 7 subtract 6. You're going to subtract. So multiplication, you add. Division, you subtract. And you end up with x to the 1. Now, remember this. Anytime you have x to the 1 or anything to the 1, it's just plain old x. We don't write that. Not x to the 0. That's a different story. X to the 0 is equal to 1. So, okay, so let's just do this a different way. 3 to the 9 over or divided. So either, oh, that's another thing, is that 3 to the 9 divided by 3 to the 7 is the same as 3 to the 9 over 3 to the 7. 9 subtract 7 is 2. You'd end up with 3 squared. And if I asked you to evaluate that, you would get 9. Okay, here single powers. There's your base. How many times do you see it? 3 times. Here, so 9 to the 3. Here you have minus 3 squared times minus 3 squared. Okay, your base is minus 3. Two ways to do it. One is to say that I'm squaring this. I'm not really a fan of this one as much. But here you have minus 3 times minus 3, all squared. So you might want to put that in the bracket like that. It's going to be the same thing in this case. But anyway, minus 3 is your base. 2 plus 2 is 4, and that goes there. Here, 81 has a base of 3, so 3 to the blank is equal to 81. You can work your way through it and try, like trial and error, 3 squared, 3 cubed, etc. Or you can just do what I did here, multiply it out and see how many 3's it takes to get to 81. There's 4 3's, 3 to the 4. Go back and check your work also. Okay, you can evaluate. You're going to have a calculator. If you can use your calculator, that's great, but be careful. 4 squared is just 4 times 4, 16. This is the negative of 3 cubed. So anytime you have a negative in front of a number and it's not in a bracket, your answer is always going to be negative. So this is the negative of 3 cubed. This is negative 3 cubed. So negative 3 cubed is minus 3 times minus 3 times minus 3. Now in this case, it's also minus 27, but you got to be careful. If this was negative 3 to the 4, this is going to be this. And if this was that, okay, this is where this gets different, is you're going to have 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 times 3, that's going to be 81. And you have an even number of negatives. So a negative and a negative is positive, negative, positive, you end up with plus 81. This, if I had negative 3 to the 4, that's the negative of 3 to the 4. So 3 to the 4 is 81, but I want the negative out of it. So this is always going to be negative. Okay. Okay, here, adding and subtracting. Whenever you have two signs, I just do this. Plus and minus is a minus, so it's 1 minus 12. There's your answer. 51, a minus and a minus. I don't like two signs. I want one. If they're the same signs, it turns to plus. Okay. If they're different signs, either plus, plus minus or minus plus, you get a negative. Sorry. So just replace the two signs with the one sign. I know this is a bit ugly. So I have minus 2 minus minus. That's a plus. plus minus, that's a minus. So now I go minus 2 plus 3 minus 12. Work your way through. Multiplication and division, you're going to do two things. One, sorry, I want to make a note of this. This is minus 6 times minus 5. If you ever see this, minus 6 like this, just get used to this. Two brackets side by side, you are multiplying. Okay, that's how we write that. I don't know if you had that before, but that's how we write that. So you're going to multiply there. Minus 6 times minus 5, you ask yourself two things. What's the number and what's the sign? So 6 times 5 is 30. And then two negatives, again, just with addition. Same sort of thing. If you have an even number of negatives, you're going to end up with a positive. Okay, hope that makes sense there. Let's keep going. Here, the number 3 and 2 is 6, and the sign plus and minus is negative. Okay. Here, division, same thing. You can also write it like this. Just get used to this sort of thing. That's the same as division. 55 divided by 11, that's going to get you 5. Negative and a positive. 1 negative gets you a negative. Minus 8 divided by minus 2. 2 negatives this time. Plus 8 divided by 2, 4. All done. Number 6. Here, I have 2. The ratio of the coins is 2 to 11. The 39 coins total. So what's going to happen here is your total is going to be a factor of this here. So their ratio is 2 to 11. 2 plus 11. So 2 plus 11 is 13. So the total of the components of the ratio is always going to be a factor of this number here. That's 3 times this. So each of these are going to be 3 times as big, and you're going to end up with 6 to 33. Here, you're talking about discount. Two ways to do this. Two types of questions. Whenever you have a percent, you can change it to a decimal, or if you want, you can just leave it as a percent. So 20 times, sometimes I use a dot for times, 30%. Okay, you can use that. That's the same thing as saying 0.30. Percents, you're going to multiply, and you're going to end up with $6 as what you take off. If the thing costs $20 and it's $6 off, you can tell me that it's $14 by subtract them. Another way to deal with this is to say how much on, what's left. If it's 30% off, then that means that 70% remains. So you're going to multiply by 0.70 or 70%, and you're going to get 14, same thing. And then you multiply that by 1.13 to find out the total. Or you can multiply by 0.13, get the tax, and add it back onto $14. This question here, I go left 11, that's negative, and then positive 4. 5 times I gain 2. 5 times 2 is that. Keep going here. Solving, I'm going to do this one first. Whenever you have this sort of thing here, when you have ratios across an equal sign, you can move the letter or the number up across as long as you switch the side. So if it's on the bottom, it goes to the top, and the top to the bottom. So n over 7, and what you want to find out is n. So you got to get rid of the 7. It's on the bottom here, so you bring it across here. It's dividing here. It's multiplying here. So n equals 3 times 7, which is 21. Here, a little bit more work. Okay, you can flip them if you want. You can go ahead and say 24 over 3 is equal to n over 2. I don't really bother with that. What I say is this. I'm going to bring the n up here. It's on the bottom. I bring it to the top, so it's up here. So now I have 3n over 24 is equal to 2. So I multiply both sides by 3. And then I got to get rid of this 3. So the 3 comes down over here. It's on the top. It comes to the bottom. The 24 I want to get rid of. It's on the bottom. It comes to the top. And then I go 2 times 24 divided by 3, and I get my answer. Simplify and evaluate. Okay, so here we're just going to simplify and then evaluate. Okay, so we'll make this one sign and then, or one exponent, and then find out what it is. So that's 3 plus 2, because we're multiplying. You add the exponents, you get 5, and then throw them in the calculator, 32. Here, a little more work. You can do this several ways. One is minus 2 is your base. So how many minus 2's do you have on top? 3 and 9 is 12. Okay, so 3 plus 9 is 12. On the bottom, you have 8, and this is nothing here, but remember that's a 1. So 8 plus 1 is 9. So now you have, oh, I made a mistake here. That's 12 and 9. Okay, so 12 and 9. 12 subtract 9 is 3, and that's going to be minus 2 times minus 2 times minus 2. Okay, so this is a good question. So minus 2 times minus 2 times minus 2, the number's 8, and then it becomes negative 8 because you have 3 negatives. So negative times a negative times a negative. This guy here is 4 and 3. 4 and 3 you multiply. Power over power you're going to multiply. Okay, so anytime you have this x m n, I don't know if I did this before, that's x to the m times n. So what is the exponent here? 2, 4, and 3. So 2 is your base. I have 4 of them, and then I have 3 of them. 4 times 3 is 12. I end up with this, 2 to the 12. So different here. Multiply, you add. Divide, once we get here, divide, you subtract. Power over power, you multiply. Okay, and the last one I think is a great question. Bunch of ways to do it. Try it. This is the answer. A to the 8, B to the 8. Couple ways, like I said, a bunch of ways to do it. One is to clean up the top. That's what I did here. So I have 8, and then these are multiplying. So I have 8 plus 2 is 10 here. I have 11, and this is a 1, so I have 12 on top. I clean this up. How many A's do I have on the bottom? This is 1, that's 2. I end up with 3. I just have the 6 B's here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I think what I did here, I don't know what I did here exactly, but a couple ways to do it. One is to divide each one out. Another way is to go across. So here what I did was I divided out. You could multiply here. Again, just multiply the numerators and the denominators. And I'll just do this to show you that it doesn't matter which way you do it. I have 10 here and 9 here, so that's 19 once I add them together. I have 12 and I have 9, so I have 21. On the bottom, I have 3 and I have 8, which is 11. Okay, so I'm going to add because I'm multiplying. And 6 and 7 is 13. And now I'm going to divide. So 19 subtract 11. 21 subtract 13, 8, and 8. Okay, what I did here on the photocopied version here is I divided each of these first. So 10 subtract 3 is 7, 12 and 6 is 6, 9 and 8 is 1, 9 and 7 is 2, and now I'm multiplying. 7 plus 1 is 8, and this is 8. Okay, hope that makes sense. Watch the video again, slow it down. If there's anything that confused you, send me an email. I wrote a tough one here. And this should get you ready for the test. Take care. Bye.